This episode of the All Automotive Podcast is brought to you by our friends at GeForce Automotive. GeForce Automotive is a certified service center through Auto Value. Want to make an appointment? Go to their website at www.geforceautomotive.net. Click on the banner that says Make an Appointment and make your appointment today. And now, the next episode of the All Automotive Podcast. All right, welcome back to another episode of the All Automotive Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Clausen, and today I want to talk about something that's really important, people. And that is, do you actually know the repair facility that you're taking your vehicle to get repaired? Do you know if they're qualified to do the repairs that they say they're going to do? Do you know if they have any history of problems with customers, or are they awesome and they were recommended to you by Aunt Jenny? So today what I want to talk about is a situation that we just got done dealing with. This was a week or so ago, and it was quite a long time for us to sift through all the crap that this lady had been through. So lady ultimately comes in with her mother, and they had their vehicle at another repair facility in town, and this repair facility took them to the cleaners, run them through the ringer. I don't know what else to say without swearing about it, and it's worth swearing about because it put us in a very precarious situation because we didn't know the whole situation. So kind of what I want to talk about today, and what I will talk about today, is some red flags that may come up when you take your car in for work. You know, now this particular repair facility, he took over a place that was currently running, and it was for lack of a better term, it's a substandard repair facility in town. And it just strikes me as very odd that this person wants to continue to be in business with not being upfront and honest with his customer about the situation that he was dealing with her vehicle. And I'm not sure if this particular guy got in over his head, and it sounds like it. And that's what kind of steamrolled into one lie led to another, and then I've got to stick with that, and then it's just not, it just ended up being a very, very terrible situation for this particular lady. And so he had put an engine in her vehicle, and unfortunately it had a catastrophic failure where the piston rod came through the side of the block, which that shouldn't happen, but it does. And unfortunately, the steps he took to remedy that situation weren't the right ones. And it cost this particular lady her job. It cost her thousands of dollars in spent money to him that she's probably not going to get back unless she, takes legal action against this particular person. And, then ultimately brings it to us with the particular story that she was given. So the replacement engine was put in, and it runs rough, and it was misfiring on cylinder 3, and it comes to us in pretty much, for lack of a better term, in a bushel basket, all apart down to the, cylinder heads off. If you know what I'm talking about, the engine's disassembled. So we make a educated decision based on the parts that we saw and the condition that it was in, We were like, well, it's brand new. Why does he have the cylinder head off? Maybe he's not up to date with all the ways that a particular engine can misfire, and maybe he missed something, and maybe it's something different, and it's not what it was told to be. But the customer told us that this was the third engine and that it had the same problem on that particular cylinder 3. So to us, it told us, well, it's most likely not the engine that's causing the problem. It's maybe an ignition coil, or the computer's not sending the right signal for everything to jive, to keep it kind of simple and stuff, and to kind of keep it easy for everybody to understand without getting into a bunch of technical information. We just went with our best guess and put the thing back together. So we drove it. It ran fine, and we got it back, and then we drove it again, and then it starts misfiring. And it's misfiring on cylinder 3. So we go through our diagnosis, engine misfire diagnosis, and we come to the determination that it, in fact, has a mechanical issue. And what I mean by mechanical, it's either the piston rings, the piston, or the valves in the cylinder head. But we had already taken the cylinder head to the machine shop so that the machine shop guy could verify that the cylinder head was, in fact, not the issue with the valve sealing and all that stuff. So we immediately ruled that part out. So then we took the cylinder head back off, disassembled it, popped the pistons out. We find out that this particular engine had been bored oversize. Not something that we see with, newer vehicles, but it's not uncommon that a remanufacturing company would make and what I mean by bored out, it just means that the original size pistons had too much distance between them and the cylinder walls. So they enlarged the cylinders and put oversized pistons in so that the pistons everything would be back to stock, but with a larger size piston. So we decide to we weren't sure what we were looking at as far as the pistons and rings. So we verified pistons, rings that we knew were correct as far as the size and so forth. We did our measurements. We looked at everything, put it all back together. We still had a misfire on cylinder number 3. So then we go through extensive lengths to make sure it's nothing else. And we come to the final conclusion that this engine, we're just going to call it a day. So we talked to the customer. We explained to her what was going on. And we had made a conscious decision, the both of us, based on the information that we were given from this other repair facility. She had to rescue her car from this place because it had sat there for over a year. And one thing after another, he was waiting for this, or they weren't going to, whatever story he told her was a lie. Whether he blamed it on the engine manufacturing place, the remanufacturing place, or it was something else. He was always waiting for something. There was always something that he couldn't get, which caused her vehicle to sit out at his facility. So the story he was giving her was this third engine had the same problem, and now this remanufacturing place isn't going to give me another engine because they don't feel that it's their responsibility to continue to give him engine assemblies, which, face it, folks, engines aren't cheap and parts aren't cheap anymore. So a whole engine assembly, and let me just put a dollar figure on it for you, $4,000. So this engine remanufacturing place has given him 3 of these. So 4 times 3 is $12,000. He still owes all that money, and they don't want to give him another one, and he's not going to. So it was a bunch of back and forth, and and a lot of no truth to any of the situation. So as we've did some more investigating and some more research, it was determined that this third engine was never installed in her vehicle. And had we had that information before me and the customer discussed putting this particular engine back together, and then that maybe the repair facility that it was at missed something on as far as a diagnosis, as far as a spark plug or ignition coil or a fuel injector potentially issue, and that it wasn't mechanical, that we felt that it was okay to move forward. And if it misfired when we got it together, we would just diagnose it, and it would probably be ignition coil or fuel injector at that point. That this particular repair facility wasn't up to the challenge as far as that type of diagnosis. So red flag number one for this repair facility is he was a former technician at another repair facility in town and decided to quit this repair facility and open his own, or take over this one and then just rename it whatever he wanted to rename it. The guy who was there for however many years owns the property, blah, blah, blah. So he's paying him rent and he's running his own business now. So again, red flag number one, has not been in business for more than a year. Takes on a job which he probably shouldn't have done, in my opinion. I don't know if, like I say, I think he got in over his head and he didn't know what to do and know which way to go. And the lies started coming out, and I don't know. But you have to kind of wonder what the thought process is of this particular person that runs that repair facility, of what actually he was trying to gain and what actually did he gain from lying to this person, which she's never going to go there again. And every time she sees somebody, she's telling him, don't go to this repair facility, come to ours, because of how she was treated. She was treated like a human being, and we listened to what she had to say. We made an educated decision based on what we knew at that time. And gosh, it kind of burned us too, you know? So I feel like, you know, we've got all this time and effort into this engine, and then, you know, me and this customer are hanging on by the cord, and finally we're just like, let's just pull a little harder and we're just going to unplug it. We're just going to cut the cord on this engine and we're going to call it. We're just going to put a different engine in it, and then we're going to go from there. I can't believe we've exhausted all of our resources as far as, is it electrical? Is it mechanical? Is it, you know, we've exhausted everything. It came back to a mechanical issue with this particular engine. So we were just like, I said to myself, okay, I'm not spending any more money on this particular engine. We're just going to call it. I'm going to offer this lady a used engine and from a salvage yard, and that's the way we're going to do it. So as it turned out, we had an engine that we took out of another vehicle that we ended up putting pistons and crank and bearings and all new gaskets and new timing chains. And so it was all ready to go. So we'd been doing a number of these different vehicles, specific vehicles. Let me say that again. We were doing a number of engine repairs and engine replacements on this specific vehicle. And we had a pretty unprecedented run of replacing this engine in this particular vehicle. And so we had the opportunity to purchase a core that we took out of one of the vehicles. And what I mean by core charge is they want the the salvage yard, when we buy them from the salvage yard or from a remanufactured place, they want the old one back so they can either scrap it or sell it to the remanufactured places. So the salvage yards do two things with them. They either melt them down or take them for scrap metal, or if they're valuable enough, like this particular engine, they would send it off. They have like a remanufacturer that comes by once every, 6 months and gets 10 of these that they've got back as cores, which they are usable cores, which they pull apart and put new pistons in. So anyway, we had an engine that we had overhauled. We put new pistons and crank bearings in it. Timing chains. Like I said, we put all new gaskets in it. It was sitting on an engine stand. It was ready to go. So we had it ready to go for some other customer. It just so happens that this particular customer had the same type of vehicle, which had the same type of engine in it, and it was a workable transaction. So what we came to the conclusion that, we have this one. This is how much money that we need for this one. And because of the circumstances, because we've already put it back together and done all this stuff, and you've paid us to do that, I just want you to pay for the engine. And the lady was like, well, I don't think that's fair. And she didn't think it was fair that I wasn't going to charge her labor again. She was actually wanted to pay for it because we made that decision. She goes, well, now listen, Matt, you took the opportunity to explain everything to me. We made an educated decision based on the information we had. Again, we got lied to by this particular repair facility, which makes us both mad. And there's really nothing I can do other than try and get this lady on the road and, salvage something. So we move forward with that. So I said, I'm going out of town for a few days. I'm going to be back on Monday and we'll discuss it. So my staff takes it upon them, and I told my staff before I left, I said, look, she wants to put the engine in. We're not charging her any labor. Just charge her for the engine and any incidentals like fluids, oil, and filter. And, I call it the dumb stuff, but it's not dumb. So any of the little incidentals, add that to it. And then you guys probably aren't going to get to it until I get back anyway. So, but if you do, whatever. So my staff takes it upon themselves to exceed the expectations of myself and this lady and say, you know what? We understand that she's been through the ringer too. And let's get this thing put in. So they put the engine in, and to end the story, it's runs fine. It was all that particular engine. And then, like I say, all the other little, we're not sure, maybe this, maybe that. I don't know. We don't know what he did, but he didn't do right by this lady at all. She spent over $5,000 to have him screw up her car and have her have to tow it away from there. And then not to put all the parts that he had taken off of it weren't in the vehicle or anything. And that's a Michigan problem legally for him, because we are, as repair facilities, we are regulated by the state of Michigan. And that is a no. You do not keep the parts from a vehicle. You have to offer those back to the customer. And, you don't want your old parts back. No. But you know what? We have to ask every single customer that comes in the door, do you want your spark plugs back? Do you want this back? Red flag number 2. And red flag number 3, dishonest. Hasn't been in business very long. And then did not return the parts. So standing in our waiting room, she's like, I'm just going to call him. I'm so mad about this. So, oh yeah, I got all the stuff. All right, well, I'll be over there tomorrow. Just have them all in a box for me, please. And he did. So I don't know if he thinks she's going away, but she's not. She's reported him to the state, and they will follow through. And if I have anything to do with it, there will be some, comments made to that particular state inspector if he decides to ask my side of the story. So I guess what I'm getting at is, ladies and gentlemen, we really should know who's working on our vehicle and what they're all about and where they're coming from, where they came from, what did they do before, and and this particular situation is one of the absolute worst things that I've ever seen any repair facility do to another customer. And I've been doing this a long time, people. I have worked at the dealership. I've had my own business for 15 years. This is, and I worked at the dealership since 1994, and I was in the auto business prior to that. I was in an oil change place, and I've seen and heard all kinds of different stories, and I have never in my life come across somebody that would actually lie to you about how many times they've put an engine in and what they're doing and what has transpired. And it was a complete mess that fortunately we ended up cleaning it up, but it cost, me and this lady some more money. So, and I'm not saying don't go to a repair facility that just opened up. Are they reputable? Did they come from someplace? So, like I'm saying, the red flags were all over the place. And I get the fact that sometimes, cost is an issue, and some of these places that you go, don't have a whole lot of overhead. So their estimates aren't what another repair facility across town that may have more expenses. I don't, it's hard to say. It's hard to say exactly why they exist like this and have the audacity to take advantage of somebody when they're in their infancy. And what I mean, what I mean by that is it's just like you haven't been open. You have no business as a technician that came from where you came from. And I'm assuming, and I would guess, that he's not a very good businessman either. And that's kind of obvious. So some questions that you kind of want to ask is, how long have you guys been in business? Valid question. I was there myself. But I was a service manager, service director / technician at times at the dealership. And I had worked there since 1994 to 2006. I went out on my own because middle management gets fired when the dealership gets sold. And I was middle management. Oh, Matt, you know what? We'll keep you on until, we sell everything and everything gets transferred over to the new owners. So your job's okay. Well, I've been in the business long enough to know, and I've been in the dealership. I had been in the dealership long enough to know and knew a bunch of guys that's not what happens. You meet these guys at service manager meetings and group meetings and we become friends, and then it's all of a sudden you don't see them. And then they're like, oh yeah, they got bought by this person and he got fired. So that's where I was. It was getting late in the run for the owner, and we were always on the same page, me and him. And I like to say that, I tried to do my very best to do what I thought was right for my family at the time and stay on as long as I could to see if the place was going to ultimately get sold. But once I got wind that he was trying to sell it and trying to find a new owner, hey, my days were numbered. And so when people came, and I started there too. I was there. So the red flags were up when I had my business, but I'm able to tell you, and if you asked me at that time, I was the service advisor. I was the service technician. I swept the floors. I talked to the customers. I sold the jobs. I did absolutely everything because I was the only one there. I started my business by myself, did everything. I was teaching at the local community college, and that's where I ran across my first employee. So, yeah, I was there too, but when people came in and were inquisitive of that, I was like, look, here's where I came from. This is what I did. It's 2 towns over is where I came from. Did I open a shop right down the road from that dealership that I worked at? No. You know why? Because I had respect for my owner and everyone else that worked there, that I wasn't going to take money and customers away from them. And I didn't solicit anything. I didn't put my picture in the paper and said, I used to work here, come here and get your work done. I did none of that. None of that. And you can ask anybody that knows me. And as a customer of mine, or was a customer of mine over there, that does come to us now, you ask them. Did Matt say, oh yeah, come on over, I'm over here now? And no, absolutely not. It was kind of like I wrote my own non-compete clause to say, I'm not doing this to them. I'm not doing this to them. I respected the fact that I was employed there for 12 years. And if they weren't going to sell, then I'm 2 towns over and I'm doing my own thing. Want to make it on my own accord, right? So I did. I had people come in and they were, it was such a nice little community that my shop was in over there. And that shop is still there and it's still a shop. And I know the guys that run it. They're real nice guys over there still. And so, when I first went in there was just a handful of people that are like, oh my gosh, we're so glad that you opened this place back up. And we used to come here when it was X. And I said, well, I'm not X and Y and Z or whatever. I'm not that guy. But I'm this guy, and this is where I came from. And I'd have conversations. And I did things like that. And those customers will continue, and they continue to come. And don't get me wrong. There were, when in 2012, we had been there for 6 years or whatever. And I put a big sign out. I told everybody, I sent all my customers a card that said, we're moving. We've outgrown this place. We're moving. We're moving across town. And if you drove through town to get there, it's kind of like a 15-minute ride. And I had like a handful of customers come in that, could walk home, or they didn't live far from that shop down in Vandercook. And it was, oh, you're moving over there? Well, all right. It's nice knowing you, Matt. Thanks for all of what you did. Really? You trust me and everything like that? And then I'm telling you I'm moving 15 minutes away and you're not going to, and that was a big concern of mine. You're telling me that I'm moving 15 minutes away and you're not going to come over with your car still? Okay. Well, you get some of that. Okay. That's fine. A lot of it is convenience. That particular shop, fortunately enough, was right there. Was like the numbered streets, I call them, I guess. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th Street, I think it was. were blocks away. Those were just, you'd walk and you could get to all five of those streets. And then it's a little lake community. It's on the south side of town. And so it was a nice little community, and people befriended me without even thinking about it. So, again, know who and what you're going to. Did Aunt Jenny send you over there, or did your best friend send you over there, or did some guy standing in line buying beer at the party store tell you, "Oh man, you should take your car over here"? We get that. We get customers that do that. They're good advocates for us. Hey, take your car to G-Force Automotive. They're awesome. Okay, we will. Thanks. I'm buying a 12-pack of beer for Friday night, Or you're at the racetrack or wherever you're at. But it's just funny to me sometimes. You finally get somebody that you can trust like us, and they were willing to just, hey, have a nice day, Matt. Been nice knowing you. Thanks for all you did for us, though. But I do have a lot of people that followed me from over there, but again, a lot of and don't get me wrong. Would you go? And it's hard to say, but convenience does enter into your mind. Is it convenient to go to this place? I mean, do they give you a ride to work? Or they, well, I'm the only one here. I was the only one there, but you know what? I locked the door, put a sign on there, so I'll be back in 10 minutes. Take this customer down the road because it's too far for them to walk. And when I was done with their car, I'm like, hey, do you mind if I take your car and pick you up? No, absolutely, Matt. Go right ahead. And if they said no, I'd pick them up in my car. It's just one of the things we do. It's one of the many things that we do. So, the red flags were going up all over the place. He's only been open for less than a year. He used to work at a place that just worked on exhaust systems. And you know the name if I said it. And I don't know that the repairs that they were performing at the place he used to work at are engine replacements and diagnosing check engine lights and stuff and being a drivability place. But they'll sure change the easy things on your car, like the brakes and the mufflers and doing alignment and front end parts and so. But hey, everybody's got a job to do, and that's just it. And I think he was in over his head, and it just turned into a terrible situation for all of us, including the parts store that he bought the parts from. They were a little combative of trying to, help us out and help this lady out is ultimately what I wanted to have them help us out with. And then they were not helpful at all. So that kind of hurt our relationship a little bit, but and one customer, I guess, really shouldn't ruin a relationship that you've built with another place. But, does your family members take their cars there? It's just, there's tons of red flag and people, you can't look at the Google reviews. I can have 20 people that I know. Hey, give us a good Google review. Give us a good Google review. I can probably call 10 people right now and get 10 good Google reviews. Maybe one or two of them wouldn't be good, but hey, I can call 10 people and have them put a review on my page or ask them of that. Does the dealership do that? We used to do that at the dealership. Hey, give us a great survey. When you get that one in the mail, check that box that says completely satisfied. It helps us out. It keeps the owner in his office, right? So, not in business very long, took over a place that wasn't stellar to start with, reputation-wise, and, you kind of drive by there and wonder if you're like me. And I'm whatever, I get it. It's just sometimes, we have to present ourselves in a certain way. And I don't know that I would really present myself with that kind of exterior if I was, trying to gain new business and gain people and be in a community that was, decent enough to, keep me in business for as long as I've been in business. So, I want my customers to come in and to feel welcome and to feel safe, and that we actually care about the way we present ourselves, the way the blacktop looks. Is there trash blowing around? Is the yard mowed? Are the signs falling down? Do we have tires laying out? You know what I mean? It's just the appearance of the outside of the place. To me, it's got to look pretty good. It's got to look good. I mean, we're a shop. We get dirty. It's a dirty, dirty job. And yes, we have a lot of stuff laying around. But, you talk to the people that work for me, it gives me anxiety that all this stuff is sitting here in the shop. And what are we doing with this garbage? We have an image to uphold. So, know the kind of place that you're going to. And let me put the period on the Google reviews. It's like, yeah, you look through his Google reviews. There's nobody in there that says he lied to me, da. There's going to be now. I said, you both need to leave a nice little review for him. Whatever you do, stay away from this particular repair facility. And here's why. And let's let the big long paragraph trying to justify what he did come out. And you could see, and we have bad reviews. We drop the ball and have a poor customer experience. Do we want that? No. But we're not lying to people. We're not taking advantage of them. And this really puts a black eye on our industry. And it really bothers me that there's repair facilities out there like this that continue to do stuff like this to people, that to continue to do what is not right and what is wrong, and continue to, because, now this particular person, I mean, she knows the difference between, she's experienced us and she's experienced him. And, that's both two ends of the spectrum. And she's very vocal about how we're upfront and transparent about everything. Because she left there and it was just like, you kind of need tires. I hated to tell her, but I was just like, look, man, these tires, you're going to have to think about that. I know this has been an ordeal, but I have to, I can't not tell you because you've spent all this money. I have to do my due diligence. And, and that's a lot of it. We walk this fine line of what we feel like we should tell you, but we don't reserve the right not to tell you there's something wrong with your car. It's up to you whether you want to fix it or not. And, I've said that for years, and we try to make that a culture around our shop to where, we're pretty forthcoming with any information that you would have or need, so that you can make an educated decision. You can't make an educated decision if you don't know about it. And I think I've said this before on one of my other podcasts last year. It's just, man, I just think in my head, What if I caught this person at the grocery store and I didn't tell her about the tires and she had a flat and then she took it to the tire store and then the tire store is like, oh my gosh, these tires are bad and I can't believe it was at a shop and they told you all, didn't tell you this and blah, 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 blah. And it's just people, that stuff goes through my mind all the time about the scenarios that you have to think about this. And I tell my technicians this too. And I tell all my staff this. It's like, look, you have to think about the conversation you would have with them if you didn't tell them and they found out about it. It wouldn't be good, would it? So let's tell them and let them decide if they want to change those tires. And she took an estimate and she said, well, I'll deal with this for a little while. I got to get back on my feet and get my job back because I didn't have my car and I couldn't go to work and I owed money on it because, unfortunately that was the situation. She had just bought this car less than a year and, the engine blows up. It happens. So like I'm saying, make sure that you know who you're dealing with. If they've been in business for a while, where did they come from? Ask questions. Ask these questions. In Michigan, we have to have our licenses hung in a cabinet that says Matthew Clausen is certified in all 8 areas of the automobile, and here they are and when they expire. And we have to show that to everybody. Adds credibility, doesn't it? Don't you think that? In a lot of states, they don't do that. In Michigan, they do. And that's why we also have to have a repair facility. And we are monitored by the state of Michigan in what we do and the service that we provide. And then if you aren't happy with that, you can report us if we've done a no-no. So it's like we have a principal or an assistant principal that comes out in a matter of speaking and will, hey, this is what we were told. What's your side of the story? And then, it goes from there. And there's anything from, we've let this happen or this happened or whatever. So it's all in how we react to the customer and how the relationship that we build. And if you just go there because your motivation is price, then I would seriously caution you to question why. Why is it so inexpensive here? Why is it this way? And don't spin that around the other way, that this other shop gave me an estimate that is X amount of dollars more. It's X amount of dollars more because there's several different variables it could be. It could be we had a different brand of part, or we have a different warranty on our repairs, or we offer towing, or we take care of you in several different ways, where if we put a starter on your car, it's a lifetime guarantee, parts and labor. And if your car down the road a year later doesn't start, you call us up and say, hey, Matt, my car won't start. Oh, that's a bummer. Do you need a ride somewhere? No, I've got somebody coming, but I'll have a tow truck company come over and get it. Leave the keys in it or whatever we need to do. You'll be there with, I'll send the tow truck company over. They'll bring it to our shop. We'll diagnose it at our cost. If it is in fact that starter, we will replace it at no cost. Give you the paperwork to show you our documentation that shows that we warrantied out your starter, replaced it again, and you still have your lifetime warranty. And you would obviously get our apologies, and we may even drop your car off or pick you up. That's the kind of service that we offer. So Is this guy doing that? Is the value price shop doing that? Taking you somewhere, picking you up, towing it for free, offering lifetime repairs on stuff? I don't know. There's a reason. There's definitely a reason. Because we're all buying the parts from the same places. So, and there's differences in prices and stuff like that. But don't feel like you have to do something at a repair facility. You don't have to do anything. We're just telling you what we find so that you can make an educated decision on that repair. So don't get all bent out of shape because our estimate is more than XYZ's estimate. Because XYZ estimate might be they don't offer the things that we offer, or they don't have the level of service that we offer, or maybe we did screw up. Maybe we overestimated. Maybe, something happened. Bring it to our attention. Hey, I took it over here and they're telling me this. But a lot of times what happens is, you get an estimate from somewhere and then you go somewhere else and they're like, oh, well, we can do it for less. Well, this isn't car buying, people. We're not going to take money off just because we want to beat their estimate. If we're talking apples to apples, it should be pretty much close to the same. There's a little difference here and there, but it shouldn't be hundreds of dollars unless there's an obvious difference in the estimate, and the obvious difference, let's say you just use that starter estimate. The obvious difference would be, is it a factory part? Well, dealership parts are more. An original equipment starter compared to an aftermarket remanufactured starter is a lot different. But you know what? I can save some money in your budget by putting this aftermarket starter on, which does have a lifetime guarantee, parts and labor, which means you won't ever have to pay for it again. And we'll tow your car and fix it if it fails on you. And if it fails on you in California, you call this number. They'll take you to a shop that deals with the same parts distributor that we do. The part gets delivered, it gets put on, and you move on. You're covered. We stand behind our work. Does he? No, he didn't. She had to rescue her vehicle and do all that jumping through hoops because I don't know why. I have no idea why. That's the biggest question that'll never be able to answer. And again, it's one of the stickiest and messed up things that I've ever been involved with. But at the end of the day, she is on the road, driving down the road with a smile on her face because we took care of her. And that actually is what makes me happy. So, yeah, find out about these people. Find out, ask questions. Take your car there, experience it. If you want, take your car there for something small. If they treat you right and they do the job right and there's no really wonky things that go on, give them another shot. But don't go driving into a new repair facility hoping that they're going to put this engine in your car right. It's not simple. I'm telling you, it's not simple. It's not simple doing what we do, and it's really challenging to hear sometimes when people believe that the automotive repair industry or automotive repairs, oh, it's easy. No, it's not. We take hundreds and hundreds of hours of training, and we use sophisticated tools. There's There's all kinds of procedures that we have to follow. There's rules that we have to follow. Kind of like your doctor. That's the closest thing that I can come to. They go to school for a long time and they have to keep up their, certifications just like we do. I have to recertify myself in heating and air conditioning, so I know how to fix your air conditioner when you come in. I know what working parts do what. Then I can go get refrigerant and know how to use it correctly. So there's lots of things to consider before you take your vehicle to a repair facility. All right, that's going to do it for another episode of the All Automotive Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Clausen. And do you have a smart speaker at home? Is it an Amazon Echo? Just say, Alexa, play All Automotive with Matt Clausen.
Getting All Automotive with Matt Clausen from Amazon Music. Resuming Season 2, Episode 7, Top 10 Vehicles of 2023 according to Consumer Reports.
It's that easy. That's all you've got to do. Give us a like, give us a follow. It all helps. It lets us let you know when there's a new episode. Once again, Matt Clausen saying, hey, keep that greasy side down.